Welcome, and thank you for coming to our Ancient Oils webinar. My name is Dr. Stacey Gaines with Essentially His Wisdom, and I help people find and safely use natural solutions for their everyday health needs. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about essential oils in the Bible. We're going to talk about what they are. We're going to talk about how they can be used safely for maximum benefit. We're going to talk about the evidence that we can see of them being used in the Bible, and really just explore a little bit about how essential oils have become a modern solution that dates back even to biblical times. So to start off, I'd like to just take a couple minutes to talk about what essential oils are. So essential oils are natural aromatic compounds that come from plants. So these compounds are found in the bark, in the seeds, in the stems, in the roots, in the flowers, and really any part of a plant can have these aromatic compounds in them. And these aromatic compounds are 50 to 70 times more potent than herbs. So if you take an oil like oregano, and you compare it to, say, the oregano spice that you have in your kitchen cabinet, right? That kitchen cabinet spice, you can maybe put a tablespoon of oregano into like a spaghetti sauce, and that's going to be like the perfect amount, right? But these essential oils are so concentrated that you don't even need a full drop of oregano to season your entire pot of spaghetti sauce. So they're very concentrated, which makes them very potent. And because of that, we want to use them safely. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. They really have been used throughout history. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. Just about every single ancient culture, we can see evidence of their use in some way, whether it's for beautification purposes, therapeutic properties, medicinal properties. There's a lot of different ways the oils have been used. And really, we can kind of think of it as like God's natural pharmacy. There's so many things that essential oils can do when we understand their chemistry and when we understand the human body and how those two things can really intersect with one another. So when we look at essential oils in the Bible, there's a lot of different uses that they can have, and there's a lot of different ways that they can be used. They're different in terms of how we use them in a more modern setting, mostly from the distillation process. And I put that distillation in quotes for a reason. The distillation processes that we have, where we shove a lot of plant material into some sort of a vat, and then we run some steam through that vat, and it basically bursts open the oil sacs in the plant material, which renders the essential oil. Okay, we didn't have those back in biblical times. Usually what would happen is that the plant material was either crushed or ground in some way, and then they would mix that with the palm or an olive oil, some sort of a carrier type of an oil, and the plant material would just be soaked in that oil, usually for weeks, sometimes even months. And then it was that oil that they would use. So by crushing it, by grounding it, they're getting those little oil sacs to burst open. And so you're getting some of the essence of the plant, some of the essential oil from the plant, but it's by no means nearly as potent as we see from our current more modern distillation processes. The Egyptians, they are probably the most well-known that we see in terms of using essential oils. If we look at ancient times, so like Old Testament times, they used essential oils in their medicine. They used it in their religious ceremonies, very religiously. They used it a lot in their beauty treatments. You'll often see, especially the women and in their mummification processes, where essential oils were used as a way to do those things. And then in food, they would use them obviously to season their food, just like we might with a spice or something like that. We see them in the Bible, in the Christmas story. Of course, we see in Matthew that frankincense and myrrh were gifts to the wise men, that were gifts from the wise men that were brought to Jesus, right? And these were considered incredibly valuable. In fact, we know the story, right? With gold, frankincense, and myrrh being the gifts that the wise men brought. The frankincense and the myrrh that was given was actually considered to be of higher value than the gold that was given. So we, in our modern minds, kind of think of like gold would be the cool thing to get, right, as a gift. But really, back in those times, the frankincense and the myrrh, because of the way that they were used and the way that they were valuable for healing properties, would have been just an extremely extravagant gift that was brought to baby Jesus. So frankincense, we know now that it really helps us to focus our energy. It helps us to improve our concentration. It helps to provide emotional balance when things just feel a little bit crazy and overwhelming. Frankincense can kind of center us and bring us back. And it was really used, especially back in biblical times, to bless newborn children. So that was certainly one of the reasons that gift was chosen as something to bring to Jesus. Myrrh, often used in religious rituals. It's also extremely antiseptic, very, very good for the skin. So it likely was something that they would have used from a medicinal standpoint for cleansing, but also the more of the religious standpoint in terms of welcoming Jesus into the world. We also see things like frankincense, sandalwood, myrrh, and cinnamon. All of these are considered very, very valuable, especially if we look back in those ancient times. A lot of times we'll see evidence of them as cargo along the caravan trade routes. So you think of like the wise men in their caravan, right? With the camels and the sheep and everything else that went with them. Like these, you would oftentimes see these types of plant materials, the frankincense, the sandalwood, myrrh, cinnamon, in those trade routes. And like I said, they were often valued even higher than gold. So these were very extravagant gifts that were brought to Jesus. We can actually see there's a whole trail. We call it the frankincense trail. It's all throughout the Middle East. So we think of it as like ancient Arabia. It's so well traveled over the past centuries, even today, that trail is actually, we can see it from space. So satellite imagery, not energy, satellite imagery in space can actually show us where that trail is in the Middle East. So it's fascinating, the type of ways that these oils were used, not just for our purposes, but in ancient times as well. We see essential oils referenced over 500 times throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament, whether it's the essential oil itself or the plant that is used to source the essential oils. And we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. But these are just a plethora of ways that we see them used. And these are all taken straight from different biblical texts. We see it for anointing, as incense, oftentimes during prayer times, perfume for medicinal purposes, for tonics that were created for some sort of a stimulant to like wake them up or energize them, to cleanse, to embalm, used in religious ceremonies, certainly, during meditation, during use for cosmetics. So women would oftentimes use this as for cosmetic purposes in terms of like beautification with the skin, for repelling evil spirits, for protecting them from disease. So there's a protective mechanism, and that's my favorite part of essential oils now in a modern setting. So we'll talk about that as well. But also we'll see it as like insect repellent for different types of mood management, as well as ritual purification processes that they would have had during these ancient biblical times. So some of my favorite sources within the Bible that we see evidence of essential oils. There are more. I just mentioned that it's mentioned over 500 times, whether it's an actual oil or if it's the plant material that an oil could come from. But these are some of my favorites. Proverbs 21:10 tells us that there is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise. Okay, so that's a cool thing, right? And that obviously there's levels of revelation that come to that particular verse in terms of what that oil is. But if you look contextually, you can see that there's some evidence of essential oil in that case. Revelation 22:2, the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Obviously, again, there's multiple layers to this particular scripture, but we also can see just in the natural realm that there's something about healing that comes forth from plants, from plant material. Mark 6:13, he anointed with oil a lot of people who were sick and he healed them. Jesus did. Ezekiel 47:12 talks about plant leaves being used for healing. In Exodus 30, Moses is told to create a fragrant blend of incense and then offer that in the temple, in the tent, right? As a way to worship God. And so we see evidence of fragrance being used in their worship ceremonies. Proverbs 7:17, Solomon perfumed his bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. So that's myrrh and cinnamon for sure. Aloe is a plant as well. Most commonly referenced, we're going to see things like frankincense, myrrh, spikenard, cassia, certainly. And then James 5:14 in the New Testament tells us to pray over the sick and to anoint them with oil. So there's this healing property of oil that is evident throughout scripture. We can also see it evident throughout our modern uses as well. So let's talk a little bit about how essential oils work then. So I'm going to give you a very broad overview here. If you would like to learn more, I want you just to head over to on my website, essentiallyhiswisdom.com. It's /learn, Learn. So essentiallyhiswisdom.com/learn. And I have a short video there that I'm going to show you more of kind of the ins and outs of what oils are and how oils work and how you can use them. But I do want to just give you kind of a bird's eye view or an overview of some basics. So essential oils, they are so small. The compounds within them, the chemical compounds within essential oils are so small that they can actually get into the cell membrane, which allows them to aid in nourishing the cell as well as protecting the cell. So we're going to see not only supportive processes from our essential oil use in terms of the oil supporting the body's natural processes, but also protective properties where the oil is actually helping to protect the cell from some sort of an outside threat. Okay, so there's several different types of those threats, viruses, bacteria, those types of things. So essential oils, then they're going to work against these cellular threats. And it's both those that are inside the cell as well as those that are outside of the cell. So we tend to see essential or viruses grow inside of the cell membrane, bacteria grow on the outside of the cell membrane. Well, most of our modern pharmaceutical type practices that we have for essential oils are designed to work outside the cell membrane because they're water-based. Our cells have a fat-based or a fat lipid membrane that is around them. It's not based, it actually is a lipid membrane. And so when you have some sort of a water-based solution, like most of our pharmaceuticals and over-the-counter types of solutions that we have readily available to us, when you use that, once it gets to the cell, it's going to kill anything that's on the outside of the cell, but it can't do anything inside of the cell. So if you were listening just a minute ago, I said that viruses are inside of the cell and bacteria and molds and yeast and those types of things tend to reside outside of the cell. So those pharmaceuticals, those over-the-counter solutions, they're going to be excellent for things that are outside of the cell, but they're not going to do anything for that virus that's on the inside of the cell. So essential oils are wonderful because they are lipid-based, they're oil-based, right? So they're going to be able to penetrate that cell membrane and actually get inside of the cell as well as outside of the cell. So you see some great, not only nourishing, but also protective properties with those essential oils. We know that essential oils work to support healthy cellular integrity. They help to keep the cell structure the way that it's designed to be. It helps the cell. There's actually research out there that looks at a molecular level at the cells and what happens when essential oils are used. And we can see that they offer these kind of integrity type properties where it helps to keep the cell intact and keep the cell doing what it's designed to do. So modern man, we generally, in most of our like pharmaceuticals, over-the-counter type substances, what we've done is we've kind of taken scents or compounds, chemical compounds from nature, and then we go and we synthetically create them in a lab so we can mass produce them. So like I said, the majority of our pharmaceutical drugs, they're actually taken from the cellular structure of these plant materials. So when I have some sort of a drug that is meant to help me to relax, it's going to do the same thing as an oil that's meant to do the same thing because it's mimicked off of that cellular structure of the oil. So it's very fascinating if you look at kind of where essential oils have come from and where our modern pharmaceutical and over-the-counter type solutions have come from as well. And so the whole idea of essential oils is they are used to really bring balance into the body system. Instead of covering up a symptom that you don't want to feel anymore, and that's great, right? Because we want to feel better. But wouldn't it be better if we could get to the root cause and eliminate that symptom altogether instead of just covering it up? So I kind of think of like a lot of our pharmaceutical, a lot of our over-the-counter type solutions that we have as Band-Aids. They cover up that solution. They help us to feel better for a short time as long as we're taking it. But we're not doing anything to actually restore health at the cellular level. Essential oils are working with your body to do that. So that's one of the things that's just fantastic and amazing of kind of thinking this as God's pharmacy. He's given us these as a way to help keep our bodies the way that he designed them, which is healthy. So there's two things that I always want you to consider. If you want to use essential oils safely, These are arguably the two most important things about essential oil use. So if you're interested in learning more about these, about essential oils, you probably have done some research online and you probably have found some really scary things, I'm guessing. So the first thing that I want you to understand is that the essential oil industry is rampant with adulteration, with shady practices, with corruption. So much so that like cutting corners is really the standard in the industry. It's not the exception. It's very common for companies to use a filler like coconut oil to make an oil go further for profit, or to use a cheaper substitute. So they might be using lavandin instead of lavender, which is different chemically. So you're going to get different responses at the physiological level. You might use cassia instead of cinnamon. Again, cassia is cheaper than cinnamon is, but cinnamon does very different things in the body. So if you're buying a bottle of cinnamon, you want those benefits, right? They may even use a synthetically or artificially derived product within there. And they can get away with this because the labeling laws in the United States let them label their oil as 100% pure as long as there is just one drop of pure oil in that bottle. And you guys, this is tragic. In my opinion, it's absolutely criminal that these companies are just betting on the customer, not knowing that this is what happens and this is what's going on. They look at that 100% pure label on the grocery store or even online with some of the companies that are online, and they think, hey, I'm purchasing a safe and effective oil for my family because it says 100% pure. So this is good. And that's not the case at all, because the industry is corrupt. The industry is dirty in a lot of different ways. But I don't want for you to be that unsuspecting and unknowing consumer. So I want to give you two things that you should always look for in an essential oil company. The first is, how do they source their oils? We call this sourcing. And the second is, how are they making sure that those oils are pure, which is testing. All right. So let's talk about sourcing first. Sourcing is basically where the plant comes from. Where is it grown? To help you kind of understand the importance of this, I want you to think about just an orange, okay? Would you rather eat an orange that comes from a tree that's grown in Florida where it natively grows? Or would you rather eat an orange that comes from a tree that I grow in my backyard in Indiana? Obviously, we're going to choose the Florida orange, right? Because it's going to be sweeter, it's going to be juicier, it's going to taste like an orange. It's just a better quality of an orange. So the climate and the soil and just the general environment in Florida, it makes it so that orange trees thrive there. That's where they natively grow. And this is important when we're talking about essential oils, because the quality of the plant is directly going to impact the quality of the essential oil that comes from that plant. So we want our oils to be sourced from a place where they're natively grown, because that plant is naturally going to be of a higher quality, which is going to make the oil a higher quality. So that's sourcing. We want to make sure that we're getting them from a place that's natural, right? And that's native. Second thing that I told you want to think about is testing. Okay. Testing is what tells you what is inside this oil. What's the chemical makeup of this oil? This is what ensures the purity and the potency of the oil. So are there chemical components at the correct levels to bring the therapeutic benefits that you're hoping for from this oil? Has there been synthetic material cut into it? The quality of the essential oil is going to be based on these types of things, and testing is what's going to show us that. Okay, so the quality of testing, one thing that's really important to understand is that the quality of that testing is going to be dependent upon the types of tests that are being done, as well as what I would call like the oil library of the testing lab and what they are using. So if you're testing against an oil library of very kind of subpar oils, kind of average type quality oils, it's going to look really good if you've got a decent average type oil. Okay. But if you're testing that same oil against a library with super high quality oils, everything is chemically where it's supposed to be, you're going to get a better picture of what's actually going on. You might see synthetic things have been cut in, or that a cheaper oil has been used as a substitute. So you also want more than just the standard, what's called GCMS test. Like I mentioned before, the library that you are running a GCMS against is going to play a major role in the result of the test that's coming out. So every single test that we have has its limits about what it can tell us about the oil. It's just like, think about kids in school. If I test 3 different kids the exact same way, they might be like the same intelligence level, but they could score very differently on the test based on how I test them. One of them might learn very much through like hands-on, so they're going to test really well on hands-on. One of them might learn by reading. They're going to test really good in like a reading question and answer test type of a thing. So if I give the hands-on test to the reader, they might not score as well, but their intelligence level might still be the same. Okay, so the same kind of thing here is with essential oils. So every test has some limits in terms of what it can tell us about the oil. So you want your oils to be tested. You want them to be tested at a good laboratory, top tier in my opinion, and you want your oils to undergo more than just 1 or 2 tests. They should undergo a battery of tests to give us a complete picture of what that essential oil looks like. So for us, my family, we have chosen doTERRA because they're the only company who checked these 2 boxes for me. They source their oils all over the world. They source them in places where the oil grows natively, and they actually work with the growers to ensure that best practices are followed to bring the highest quality oils from these plants that they're growing. doTERRA also has an incredibly extensive testing process where they run at a minimum 32 different tests on every single batch of essential oil. So they're going to run these tests at a distillation site. They're going to run it again at a third-party laboratory here in the United States that has a very extensive research background and very extensive PhDs and medical doctors in chemistry and essential oils. And then they have a third processing or a third testing site at their processing facility before it's actually bottled up. So 3 times, multiple layers of testing that are going through to show us that, hey, this bottle of lavender actually is lavender that's inside of it. So there's a lot of companies out there that are claiming to do these things. But in my researching nerdy self, when I was investigating essential oils to begin with, I started calling and I would ask them about their testing or their sourcing reports because I knew that these were the 2 most important things. I was actually hung up on a couple of times. And at best, they would tell me that this is just not public information. You guys, this should be public information. You're putting this on your body and maybe even inside of your body in some cases. You should know what's in that bottle that you are using. I also learned that some of these companies who were marketing that we source just like doTERRA or we have oils just like doTERRA, that in actuality they had oils that didn't pass doTERRA's testing standards for purity or quality. So doTERRA didn't purchase them, right? Didn't buy them to sell to us. So doTERRA has really done so much for the essential oil supply chain with their co-impact sourcing model, where the farmers and the distillers, they know that they're going to get paid for not cutting corners and not providing quality oils. And no one is even coming close to the extensive testing that doTERRA was doing. And so this was 8 years ago when I started my oil use. They've gotten even better over the years. So I say all of this. I could easily spend an entire hour on this, but I won't do that for you because I know this is an ancient oils, but I say all of this because these 2 things are so important if you care about safety. If this is more, if you want to know more, if you're nerdy and researchy like me and you're like, give me all the stuff about sourcing and testing, you can take a look at 2 different websites. One is called sourcetoyou.com. This is doTERRA's site that just shows their process to guaranteeing safety and purity of the oils. You can actually even put the lot number of your bottle and see the testing results for that specific bottle on that site. The other is on my website, essentiallyhiswisdom.com/why doTERRA. And this is a page on my site where I nerd out for like an hour on a more extensive video about sourcing and testing, as well as some additional resources. I linked that Source to You site on there as well. So all of this I say because I want you to make a safe and a best decision for your family. And in my opinion, doTERRA has absolutely raised the bar in the essential oils industry. They have taken themselves out of a very dirty, corrupted space to create a new standard of quality of essential oils that I know I can use safely with my family. They by far are the most tested oils on the market, which for me makes them the most trusted by a family who cares about safety. Okay, so all of that. Let's really quickly talk about 3 ways to use essential oils. Again, I'm going to go real high level here. So if you're using essential oils, I want you to make sure that you are working with a trusted wellness advocate who is showing you how to use them safely. This is something that I go into more detail during my member overviews with my customers is how do I do this? How do I use an oil aromatically or topically or internally at a safe way? If you don't have somebody telling you how to do that, don't buy those oils. Okay. So the first is aromatically. This is just breathing that oil into your body. You can do this by using a diffuser. I've got one here behind me that you can see kind of running back there. You can just smell the oil from the bottle. Aromatic use is going to be really great for things like affecting your mood. It's excellent for respiratory issues. It's also excellent for cleansing or purifying the air. Somebody's sick in the house, I'm running a diffuser because I want to clean out their germs so nobody else gets it, right? So I love using a diffuser because, like I said, everybody in the room is breathing in the oil, so you can really target your whole family at once. Second way to use oils then is topically. This is going to be putting the oil just directly onto your skin. This is going to be great for targeting more localized issues on your skin or maybe your head, specific body part. If I've got some head stuff going on, I want to put that oil right there where it hurts. Okay, if I've got like a skin irritation happening, I want to put that oil right where that's happening. You do want to dilute essential oils. I recommend using coconut oil because it's a very shelf stable oil, but again, that's something I'll go into more details with if you're actually working with me. The reason that we use carrier oils though is simply because we don't want to get irritation. It helps it to work really fast because it actually helps the essential oil to be absorbed into your body, into your bloodstream more effectively. In fact, research shows us about 30 seconds is all that it takes from when I put that oil on my skin to when it's in my bloodstream. With doTERRA, some of our essential oils you can actually take internally. So you can put them in water and drink them. You can put them in a little veggie cap to take it like a pill. You can even cook with them. So now I want to shift into really talk about how do we find oils discussed or used specifically within the Bible. So when we look at what oils are seen in biblical passages, or even historically known to be used during Old and New Testament times, these are probably the most common in terms of commonly mentioned ones, and that's going to be frankincense, myrrh, and spikenard. So I mentioned ways that oils are typically used in the Bible earlier in terms of purification processes and religious services and fragrances and so forth. But now what I want to focus on is kind of how are they used now? How do we see them mostly used when we're looking at them currently in our modern practices? So frankincense, you might see this in the Bible as the oil of Lebanon. That's what frankincense is. This is going to support your immune system. It's incredibly supportive of your immune system because it's incredibly supportive of your cells. So it promotes overall cellular health. It really helps your body to have a natural inflammatory response. So because of just the world that we live in and the diets that we eat and the lack of exercise that we generally have, we tend to have high inflammation levels in our bodies. And that's actually the root of most of our chronic diseases and even acute diseases that we see is high inflammation. So what frankincense does is it helps to promote a more healthy, a more natural inflammatory response in the body so you don't predispose yourself to those types of things. It's going to help our skin, so reducing the appearance of scars and wrinkles, fine lines, those types of things. Incredibly supportive of the skin in terms of its just rejuvenating processes. It's very emotionally uplifting as well. It helps to kind of balance things out when you're feeling overwhelmed. And it's kind of our when in doubt oil. It's actually called the king of oils because it's one of those, like, it synergizes well with other oils to kind of boost their effects, but it also is just an incredibly supportive oil because of the way that it supports our cells, that it can be used for so many different things. So it's kind of a when in doubt, get your frankincense out. Okay. Myrrh is another one that's really good. It's very, has a lot of antiseptic properties. So it's very powerful in terms of cleansing. It promotes a nice, healthy mouth and throat. So a lot of people like to put that on like their toothbrush as they brush their teeth. It's actually in our toothpaste for that reason. Very soothing to the skin. Any kind of skin responses, myrrh is one of the first oils that I will get out, including on our pets. So yes, you can use oils on your pets as long as you're using them safely. It promotes a nice youthful looking complexion. Has also a lot of emotional properties in terms of helping to balance out emotions and just general well-being emotionally. I like to think of it as like a liquid bandage. It's really good for the skin to help heal the skin when you have some sort of a wound or something going on. Spikenard, you may have heard of it in the oil as nard. This one and lavender are kind of interchangeably used as nard, but spikenard would have been what Mary of Bethany would have used to pour over Jesus's feet. So when she broke the alabaster flask of oil over his feet, that is spikenard that she used to anoint him before he went to the cross. So spikenard is going to be great for uplifting your mood. It's excellent for promoting relaxation. It's really great for your skin as well, a lot like frankincense, partially because it also has very protective cellular properties as well. It's a very chemically complex oil. So similar to frankincense, it can be used for a lot of different things. I like to pair it with other oils. It's not my favorite scent. I'll tell you that off the get-go, but I love this oil for so many reasons that what I oftentimes will do is hide the scent within other oils, and it tends to work really synergistically. with other oils so that you get really good benefits from that. Another trio is lavender, sandalwood, and cypress. Like I said, lavender sometimes is called nard in the Bible, and it's oftentimes used interchangeably with spikenard. Some scholars believe that spikenard and lavender were oftentimes used together. So they would crush up the lavender plant, crush up the spikenard plant, put those together in like their olive or their palm oil, let it sit, and use those together. So that's a lot of times why we see them used interchangeably in terms of biblical passages. But lavender is going to be extremely calming, very relaxing. You're probably familiar with lavender. A lot of people are familiar with lavender as a scent for relaxation already. It's going to soothe skin irritations. I think of it as calming, whether it's physical or emotional. So calming, I'm freaking out, you need to calm down, or calming, something's happening to my body or on my skin, I need to calm it down. So great for skin irritations, excellent for muscle tension. It's actually also a natural antihistamine. So a lot of people love to use this one to help with any kind of seasonal allergies that they're dealing with. Sandalwood, when you see aloes in the Bible, scholars believe that this is sandalwood that was used. Aloe vera is actually a very American plant. So we Americans tend to read that and think aloes as like aloe vera, but sandalwood or aloes in the Bible typically refers to the sandalwood plant, which tends to come from India as a spice and as an essential oil. So it's also very great for the skin. But what I love about sandalwood is it has a lot of relaxing properties from a mood standpoint. So it's kind of like when you're feeling stressful, feeling anxious, those types of things, helping to kind of calm those down. It's also great for our urinary function. It's great for grounding and just kind of stabilizing you. It's a very popular body fragrance. A lot of colognes, especially men's colognes, some women's perfumes have sandalwood as a base. It's oftentimes used in meditation practices because of that, because of its grounding and kind of stabilizing properties. Cypress, when you see this one in the Bible, sometimes it says cypress, sometimes it's gopher wood, same thing. And the idea for cypress is it's really good for your circulatory system. Okay, so it's going to support localized blood flow. If you've got cold feet, putting cypress on your feet is a great way to use it because it helps to bring that blood flow down to your feet, which is going to warm your feet up. Okay, so cypress is great. It soothes tight and tense muscles, really great for any kind of circulatory issues that you might be experiencing, partially because it supports white blood cell production, so it helps increase those white blood cells, but then also for the vasodilating options that I was talking about earlier. It's great for your immune system in terms of supporting that and enhancing that. And then it's also really good for oily skin. So a lot of people like to use this for its cleansing properties as well. These last two, cassia and chamomile, are two that we'll oftentimes see also in the body. With cassia, this was considered to be a very kind of exotic fragrance. This would have been the anointing oil that Moses would have used when he was anointing, as well as part of the fragrance that he was providing within the temple or within the tent for the Ark of the Covenant and whatnot. So related to cinnamon, cassia they're very similar in aroma, but they're very different chemically. So remember when we were talking about sourcing and testing, that some companies will take cassia and say that it's cinnamon or bottle it as cinnamon. They smell almost the same. In fact, if you pull your cinnamon out of your cupboard, it probably is cassia because they taste almost exactly the same. And cassia is much, much, much more economical to produce than cinnamon is. So there's a fun fact for you. But like I said, they're very different chemically. If we're wanting to use this for its therapeutic properties, we need to have the correct oil. So what does it do? Cinnamon, or sorry, cassia, it helps to support healthy immune function. It has a very warm, uplifting aroma. That's why we smell it all the time in like candles and things like that. And again, it's marketed as cinnamon, but it's probably cassia. It helps to promote circulation. It's very good for achy muscles and joints. I have a little body oil that I'll use for that. And then it also stimulates the endocrine system. So it helps the endocrine system to do its job. Cinnamon, we're going to see some similar properties. One of the beautiful things about cinnamon is the way that it actually helps the insulin and blood sugar levels within our body. So a lot of people love that. Just to give you a little side note with cinnamon. Roman chamomile, if you see flower of the field, flowers in the field, lilies in the field even, this is usually going to be some sort of chamomile, and it's generally going to be Roman. This is known as the plant's physician. And what I mean by that is that people would actually take take Roman chamomile or the chamomile plant and put it next to another plant to help the diseased plant cure itself, and it would help. Okay, so we're going to see some similar things happening within the body. So it's going to lessen tension. It's going to calm our emotions. It's going to soothe our nervous system. It's going to support a really healthy immune system function and helping our immune system to do its job. One of my favorite ways to use chamomile is sleep. It's great for restful sleep. It's great for relaxation. Anyone in my house who's having trouble sleeping, Roman chamomile is going in the diffuser to help them get past that. We also have a few blends that contain oils that were used biblically. So you're not going to see like deep blue in the Bible, but some of the oils that were within the blend of deep blue we'll find in the Bible. And the way these blends are recommended to be used oftentimes are actually the same manner that the individual oils were used biblically. So that's kind of cool as well. So deep blue, very great for sore, achy muscles and joints. It helps to support circulation, comforts tired muscles. Think of this as like your when things are sore, this is a great oil to be using in terms of the blend. Digestin, just like it sounds, it's great for your digestive system. So it helps to digest your foods. It soothes an upset stomach. It helps promote a nice healthy GI tract. It's going to ease things like acid reflux and indigestion and things like that, and upset tummy. This is one of the first ones we'll put on somebody's stomach if their tummy's not feeling great. And then breathe, just like it sounds, maintains clear, healthy airways. It helps to promote clear breathing. Great for your respiratory health. It's also really great for mental clarity because oxygen helps to increase mental clarity, right? So when you're breathing well, when you're getting nice oxygenated rich blood, your mental clarity is going to boost as well. So a lot of people love Breathe, not just for its respiratory components, but also for the way that it helps from mental clarity. Claricalm, this is our women's blend. It actually has a lot of hormone supporting types of oils in it, but it helps to calm our skins, helps to calm our emotions, balances out our hormones, helps us to kind of think more positively, see things more from a more positive outlook and a less cynical outlook. So it's a great oil for different parts of our cycle for the women. And then On Guard is excellent for your immune system. So it helps to promote healthy circulation. It absorbs free radicals in the body. Remember when I was talking about inflammation earlier, I said that inflammation is like the root of all of our problems, right? In terms of our chronic diseases and whatnot. And what On Guard does is it absorbs those free radicals, which by way then in the immune system starts to decrease the amount of inflammation that the body is dealing with. So I do have a little treat for you guys today, since you're hanging out with me for a little bit to learn about these ancient oils. If you scan this QR code, I have a sheet of 10 different essential oil blends that were created based on different scriptural accounts. So if you're not familiar with QR codes, all you need to do is grab your phone. You can pause this video if you need to, but grab your phone and hold it up with your camera on. So to take a picture, and you just act like you're going to take a picture of this code here, and a little box will appear and a little banner will pop down asking if you want to visit the site. So you just click on that and you'll be taken to the page that has these 10 oil recipes for you. So I love to use these in my own personal Bible study. What I'll do is I'll read the passage that's on the sheet that you'll get. I'll read the passage that's mentioned, and then I'll either diffuse it, the recipe, or I'll roll on the blend. And I also use these blends regularly for the associated emotional support. So for example, there's one that's called Restful, and it's based on the story of Jesus calming the seas. And it contains oils that are used for helping to calm and quiet our minds and our bodies. So I love to use this one when I'm feeling anxious or I'm facing something that's unknown or uncertain. It just reminds me of that story of Jesus, and it reminds me that he is in my storm and I can rest with him. So I'll use that blend in those types of emotional situations. So you can scan this code, you can get those for your own personal study, and the sheet will kind of walk you through that. It's just my treat to you for watching this video. So I do want to show you how you can get these products into your homes. If you're interested in that, there's two different ways that you can. The first is by paying retail, but don't do that. You don't need to. You pay more when you pay retail, and you don't get access to a lot of our resources, and you don't get a discount. That's not fun, right? So the second way that we have is a wholesale membership. So our wholesale membership is a little bit different than what you're probably familiar with. It works like a Costco or a Sam's Club membership. So you get to order what you want, and you get to order when you want to. Like, nobody is calling you from Sam's Club and saying you need to come in and order because you have to have an order every month, right? That's what doTERRA is like. You just get to order when you want, and you get get to order what you want when you do that. There's no selling that's required. There's no monthly or minimum orders. If you don't want to, we do have a loyalty program that you can do as an option to your membership, but it's not required. It's just something that if you want to do it, you have complete freedom to choose. So you can get started with a wholesale membership for just $35. That's your membership fee for 1 year. And then after that year, you can decide whether or not you want to renew that membership. With that wholesale membership, you get all of your products at wholesale prices, which is 25% off of retail price. With the membership, you also get plugged into all of our resources that we have. We have an exclusive members only training and events. I sit down with you to talk through exactly how to use your oils and use them safely. We have the resource pages where you can go in and ask questions and just generally get supported in using your essential oils. With the membership, there's also a great shipping rewards program where you get your shipping costs back in product points and you can spend those on free oils. We've got a loyalty program where you can earn more points from your regular orders if you decide that you want to do that. So there's a lot of benefits to having that membership. You can also opt to purchase one of our starter kits to start a membership. So with these, that $35 membership fee for your first year is actually waived. So you get product for those dollars that you're spending. So these are collections of some of our most common products. This one is called the Healthy Start Kit. It's got 10 oils, a lot of which we talked about tonight as a single and some of the blends even, so that you're basically prepared for keeping your family happy and healthy. It also has a diffuser and it's $160. These are smaller 5 milliliter like trial sized bottles. So this is a great one for people that are a little bit skeptical, not quite sure, okay, I'll spend $160 and see if this works kind of a thing. This is actually the kit that I started with because that was my thinking. If this saves me like 3 trips to the doctor's office, it pays for itself. And I can tell you it's done that and a lot more. So if you like this one, you can actually scan the QR code there at the bottom. I'll take you straight to a shopping cart, or you can certainly contact me and I can help you decide if this is the best option for you and for your family. Another option that a lot of people like is the Home Essentials kit. This has several of the oils, again, that we talked about as singles or in blends. This is my favorite for just overall emotional and physical health and wellness. If this kit would have been around when I got started, I might have started with this one. But this one, you get 15 milliliters, so full size bottles with this kit. Also has a diffuser there, the pedal diffuser, and this one is in the $250 price range. So only about $190 more, and you get 3 times the amount of oil because of the 15 milliliter bottles. So that in itself is a really good deal. But again, your membership is waived with this kit. So just like the last one, if this is something that you're interested in, you can scan that QR code. That'll take you straight to a shopping cart. But with all of this, I am here as your wellness advocate. If you have questions, I would love to help you. If you want better guidance as to which kit to get started with, because there's even more than these two, that's what I do. I know that this can feel overwhelming, and so I like to take that overwhelm away from you. I kind of think of it as you are the expert on you and your family's health. I'm the expert on the human body and on essential oils. So together we make a really fabulous and wonderful team. So with that, I'd like to just thank you again for watching tonight. I hope that you learned something that's helpful. As I mentioned, I'm happy to help you make any decisions or answer any questions that you might have. But I just want to wish you well. Take care and God bless.